up on the board there are 5 words that are in throughout the lesson. And I want you guys, with your partner at your table, to write a paragraph using the 5 words, and you guys can be as creative as you want. But just predict what those 5 words could be, and put them into a paragraph. So work at your partner at your table. You guys have one sheet for 2 people. You have 2? Okay, you just need one. Oh no, you only have 1. Oh, so you guys share them. Yeah. So use all 5 words. Yeah, write it down. On the top part of the paragraph. You can make it a story, you can make it as creative as you want to be. Yeah, you use those 5 words and just make up what you think this can be about. You're going to take these 5 words and you're going to write a paragraph or a sentence using all 5 words about what you think it is. I gave you 5 words, right? Anything you want with those 5 words. Okay, so you guys got the gist of it from these words, and today we will be talking about the Dust Bowl, which I heard from everyone across the room that it is a dust storm, destroyed crops, it destroyed farms. So I think I kind of got that from most people. We'll go back to it. So that's what we'll be talking about today, is the Dust Bowl. So the student objective. Today I will be able to describe what the Dust Bowl is and what American families went through during the Dust Bowl. And in the lesson, that's what you guys will be able to do. And then on your tables, I gave everyone a recording sheet, which is the paper with the squares on it. And this is for you guys to take notes as we go through the PowerPoint, because you will need information from this at the end to complete an activity. So make sure you're filling it out as we go. The recording sheet is just for key points. So don't go writing down a whole paragraph whenever you see. Try and write just the main points of what I'm talking about. So, this is what the Dust Bowl is. The Dust Bowl was a period of time where severe dust storms damaged and destroyed vegetation, soil, crops, and farms in the United States. This caused an intense drought for 4 years, from 1936 to 1940. This was a dark and rough time for families who lived in the Dust Bowl regions. So the Dust Bowl, like we just said, was a dust storm. It lasted for 4 years long, and it started in 1936. So where did this happen? The Dust Bowl happened in Oklahoma, Kansas, and northern Texas. Those are the main states where the Dust Bowl affected. As you can see right here, that the Dust Bowl states are in brown. So it's right here, this region. We also have Colorado in there. And then also we have the area with the most severe dust storm damage, which is the red spot right in the middle. So that was the corners of Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Colorado right there. And then we have other areas damaged by the dust storms. And to me, when I look at this, it looks like that the wind had carried it north and it affected states up that way, such as Montana, South Dakota. But the main states are the ones that are in brown right here. So right here I have some photos that we're taking from the dust storm. I want you guys to turn and talk with your partner for a couple seconds of what you see in these photos? Go. Okay, you can bring your conversation to a close in 3, 2, and 1. I heard some great things. I would like you guys to share. So let's talk about this first photo. Who would like to tell me what they see in this photo? Yes.
I see a dust storm.
You see the dust storm over here, correct?
I see that they wear masks, maybe because of all the dust.
Very good.
And maybe the dust storm pushed all that sand under that barn.
Very good. And yeah, that is a barn. Excellent. What about this one up here?
They had to wear that stuff so the dust didn't get in there.
Very good. We can just look in the top photo and the bottom photo that people had to have their mouths covered, their eyes covered, and most of their skin covered because the wind was so strong that the sand and everything would hit your legs, hit your arms, hit your face, and it would leave like little cuts because that's how strong the wind was blowing everything. Anyone else would like to share what you and your partner talked about? Yes.
This movie talks about I can't see because I didn't know we wear masks on the first one.
Oh yeah, it's a small photo, but yeah, they have masks on.
So when we started wearing masks, we could see there was a huge snowstorm coming to where our house and I burned that.
Very good.
And then it was like what happened after the storm, it covered all of that barn. And then he had to wear the mask.
People have to wear masks on there. Very good. Good observations. Well, actually, what I found for this photo up here is that this is 3 children who are about to go to school. And you can see that they're covered from head to toe. They have masks on and everything. And I saw that from the website I got this from was that the dust storms were so damaging to health that children were often sent home from school in order to prevent dust pneumonia. And dust pneumonia is when you get too much dust in your lungs and it becomes deathly. So the dust was so dangerous that some days children were forced to stay overnight as walking home and breathing in the dust was a serious health hazard. So today, in Alabama especially, can you guys imagine just coming to school and then having to stay overnight because of a dust storm? That's just something that wouldn't happen here, but for these children, that was the case for them. And then in this top right photo is just the dust storm that's approaching. You can see homes. And then down here, this is a farm. And under here before was all crops. And because it's buried in dust, obviously the crops and everything died. And it's just, if you can tell, this is, how tall would a barn be? The size of your house, let's say. There's dust from the ground to the roof. And then of course we have right here, it's just masks, because people don't want to get the dust pneumonia. So now I have a passage from a book called The Children of the Dust Bowl. And this is written by Jerry Stanley, and it is a true story. He recounts events that happened during the Dust Bowl. And he talks about what the Dust Bowl is and how the Okies handled it. And the Okies were the people of Oklahoma at the time, and that's what they would call them. So I'll read you this passage. Then it seemed things couldn't get any worse, but they did. The year was 1936. It hadn't rained more than a few drops in the Panhandle for 5 straight years. One day the wind started to blow, and every day it blew harder and harder, as if nature were playing a cruel joke on the Okies. The wind blew the dry soil into the air, and every morning the sun rose only to disappear behind a sky of red dirt and dust. The wind knocked open doors, shattered windows, and leveled barns. So this is how the Dust Bowl started, was that it did not rain for 5 straight years, so naturally everything just dried up. And then the wind started picking up daily, getting stronger and stronger, and that's what created this dust storm. Because everything was just extremely dried out, and then picked up all the soil, and that's what happened quickly, tied down farm equipment and whatever supplies they had outside, then run for cover. Cracks around the windows and doors were taped or stuffed with wet towels, but it was impossible to escape the dust. At night, families slept with wet washcloths or sponges over their faces to filter out the dust. But in the morning, they would find their pillows and blankets caked with dirt, their tongues and teeth coated with grit. So this morning, you guys all woke up, you're all in your beds, everything was fine, you got ready to come to school. But at that time for children, they would wake up with dirt in their mouth, dirt in their eyes, dirt covered them head to toe, and they'd have to get ready and be able to go to school. And they also had to sleep. Imagine having to go to sleep with a wet cloth or a sponge on top of your face. Like, how uncomfortable would that be? But that's the only way that they would kind of prevent having all the dust flying to their face. And they were inside at the time as well. That just shows how strong the winds were. It was just blowing the dust through the house and through windows. Every morning, the house had to be cleaned. Everett Buckland of Winoka said, if you didn't sweep the dust out right then, between the storms, you end up scooping it out with a shovel. That's how much would end up in a home. So if you waited 2 or 3 days, you'd be shoveling that stuff out your front door. And every morning, someone had to go check on the animals. The fierce gales buried chickens, pigs, dogs, and occasionally cattle. Children were assigned to tasks of cleaning the nostrils of the cows 2 or 3 times per day. So in the morning, they'd wake up and they'd have to go outside, and let's say it looked like this, and try and find their dogs, their cats, their whatever other animals, cattle even. And you guys know how big cows are, but they would be buried into the dust. And it says 2 to 3 times a day, the children, their jobs were to go outside and get the dust and get everything out of the nostrils and the eyes of the cattle, because they could die or they could go blind. The Dust Bowl killed people who stayed out too long without shelter. Roland Hooker almost lost his grandmother to a storm. I remember my grandmother hanging onto the fence post, he said. The wind was blowing so hard she looked like a pennant in the breeze. However, more people died from dust pneumonia, when the dust caused severe damage to the lungs. Betsy Zentz of Goodwill summed up the nightmare experienced by the Dust Bowlers as they saw what American families have gone through. We are going to do the turn and talk activity. So it's 1936 and the Dust Bowl has just started. You and your partner will role play a conversation between the person who's going to stay and the person who is going to leave. Make sure you're giving a reason why you're going to stay or why you're going to leave. So in groups of 2, I want you and your partner, one person to say they're going to stay, and one person to say they're going to leave. They're going to move somewhere else or go to a different state to get away from the Dust Bowl. So I want you guys to talk to your partner about it, and I'll give you a couple minutes. I'm leaving. So one person's going to say if they're staying, one person's going to say they're leaving. I want you to give me why you're going to stay. You're staying? Oh, you're staying? Who's staying? Kelsey, you're going to stay and you're going to leave. So tell me some examples or reasons why you want to stay and why you want to leave. So raise your hand if you were the person who was staying. Let's see. Oh, wait, no. One on your table, okay? Okay, so let's hear some of the reasons why you want to stay. Do you have any reasons? Not really? Okay, that's okay. You just want to stay. Okay.
If I were a mother, I wouldn't want to take my kids to a new environment because it'd probably feel uncomfortable.
Very good. That could be a reason that a mother doesn't want to take their children out from what they know. Very good reason. Yes?
I wouldn't risk being outside because you could get sick or you could get buried.
Exactly. If you're trying to travel out of Oklahoma, you could get the dust pneumonia. Could be safer just to stay, but you're right. But it's not even to stay, different country. That's okay. That's what you do. Okay, in the back.
I would go.
Hey guys, I can't hear. Yes.
I would go for money and food wise to support my family because if we were having trouble with the farm, I'd want to leave and try to get money and do jobs. And
Very good, yeah, because if your crops are all gone, what are you losing if you don't have any crops? Money, exactly. Very good. Okay, so now we are going to return.